Good morning. Welcome to Primetime on Saturday, the 14th of June. So let's dive in and get right into it. Why is it that no matter how hard you try, that belly fat just won't budge? You're eating better, you're moving more, and you're doing everything you're supposed to, but your genes still give you into that soft round ring around your waist that just isn't going anywhere. And if that's you, you're not broken and you're definitely not alone. In fact, this is one of the most common complaints I hear from clients, and there's a reason for it. A proper biological hormones and evolution kind of reason. So if you're frustrated, knackered, and wondering whether you're missing some kind of trick, this is for you. And more specifically, why it clings to dear life, even when you feel like you're doing everything right. You probably cleaned up your food, hit the gym more often, maybe swapped late night snacks for a walk, but that annoying soft tire around your middle is still there. And it's like having someone who's at the end of a party who just won't go home. So let's clear up something straight away. This isn't about you being lazy. It's not about a lack of discipline. And no, your body hasn't broken. What's happening is something I see in midlife clients every single week. You're doing the work, but your body's just not playing ball like it used to. And that's normal. As we age, things shift. Muscle starts dropping off, and you don't notice it at first, but give it a few years, and without any proper resistance training, suddenly your metabolism feels like it's taken a hit. Less muscle means less energy burnt at rest. And now you throw in things like poor sleep, long working hours, daily stress, a couple of drinks in the evening. And if that sounds familiar, well, what it does is it jacks up your cortisol, and cortisol loves to stash fat around your belly. Now, let's add insulin to the mix. That's the hormone that handles carbs and blood sugar. And once you hit your 40s and beyond, insulin sensitivity takes a dive, which means more fat storage, especially around the middle. So your metabolism's slowed, you're stressed, you're not sleeping enough, your body's hanging on to carbs, and worse, and you're wondering why that belly fat just won't go away. It's not you, it's your environment, your hormones, and your age basically doing a number on you. And here's the bit no one tells you. If you're in a calorie deficit, belly fat doesn't just disappear on cue. It treats your body like an emergency reserve. So from an evolutionary standpoint, it's trying to help you survive a famine that isn't coming. Which is why fat loss in midlife isn't just eat less and move more. That advice is about as helpful as shouting try harder to someone who's already knackered. You need a proper strategy, and strength training, more protein, better sleep, stress control, and you need an approach that goes with that, that's a plan and not some kind of panic or sort of quick fix. And this is what Prime Fit's all about, but we don't need to go into that just yet. So let's get to the nerdy stuff next, and why belly fat has this literal biochemical lock on it. All right, so this is a nerdy but weirdly satisfying stuff that helps it all make sense. And that's the receptors. So I'm not going to give you a GCSE biology lesson here, but there's something you need to know. And this is about how fat cells behave. So you've got two types of receptors in fat cells. One's called beta 2 and the other one's called alpha 2. Now, beta 2 is like the good guys. It says, yep, let's burn this fat for energy. And alpha 2 is literally the opposite. It says, now let's just hang on to this fat just in case. So here's the thing. Belly fat is loaded with alpha 2 receptors. It's like it's got a lock on it. And that's why when you start losing fat, it comes off your face, your arms, your chest, and maybe even your legs. But around your belly, no, that's just fat has got its feet up on the sofa and it just won't move. And it's not just annoying, it's why you feel you're not getting anywhere. You are making progress. It's not showing up where you want it yet. And your body is wired to get rid of the easy stuff first. The stubborn areas like your belly are protected by your biology, not because your body hates you, but because it thinks it's doing you a favor. Now, if you're in midlife and this is your experience, it makes total sense. You've probably done a few diets. You've probably done some, cardio, cranked out some HIIT classes or some boot camps, and you lose a bit, but your waist doesn't really budge. And that's alpha 2 literally doing its thing. It's not your effort, it's the chemistry. And people ask me all the time, can you just target for fat in this specific place? And it's like, can you switch off those receptors? No, not in any kind of safe or sustainable way. And there's stuff you can get online, pills and potions, but most of that's snake oil or dangerous or both. But here's the good news is that you can still lose that and you just have to outlast it. So you chip away at the easy stuff first, and over time, your body eventually starts to tap into those stubborn fat stores. It just takes longer, especially when you're over 40. And that's why so many people give up too early. They're actually halfway there, but because they can't see it yet, they think it's not working. So the next time you're standing in front of the mirror thinking, why is this still here? Remember, it's not because you failed, it's biology and it's beatable, just not with shortcuts or desperation. You need patience, consistency, and the right kind of plan. Right, so because this is where most people get confused, I want to just spell this out. Not all belly fat is the same. And honestly, some of it is much bigger deal than how you fit into your genes. So you've got two types of belly fat in the abdominal area. First of all, you've got what's called your subcutaneous fat. And this is the stuff that you can grab. It's that wobbly bit under your skin. It's the bit you don't like. That's not very flattering. But in the grand scheme of things, it's not the most dangerous. Is it annoying? Yes. Is it a medical emergency? No, not really. Then there's visceral fat. And this is the one where you really want to keep an eye on it. So visceral fat sits deep inside your abdomen and it's wrapped around your organs. It's invisible from the outside, which is what makes it so problematic. You could look relatively lean in a t-shirt, still worrying about the visceral fat inside, because this stuff is metabolically active. And that means it doesn't just sit there quietly. It actually messes with your hormones, it drives up inflammation, and it increases your risk of type 2 diabetes, heart disease, cancer. And it's basically like your body's got this kind of seeping chaos going on in the inside. Now, here's the thing that sometimes people who don't look that bad on the outside, they often have more visceral fat than someone who's visibly overweight. I've seen it in loads of clients, especially midlife people who sit at a desk all day, skip meals, snack on crap, and then have to have a drink in the evening to wind it down. They're not huge, but they feel awful. They've got low energy. They feel bloated, tight around the waist, and that's often visceral fat doing its thing. Subcutaneous fat, on the other hand, tends to respond much faster to diet and exercise changes. It's still stubborn, so don't get me wrong, but you can usually shift it with the right training and nutrition. Visceral fat, though, that needs more patience and more consistency. But the good thing is, it does go. And when it does, you'll notice way more fat loss around your belly and your belt getting looser. And we're talking things like thinking clearer, better sleep, improved blood markers, and actual proper health improvements. So not just the cosmetic stuff that you see in the mirror. So when you're on your fat loss journey and you feel like the scale isn't moving, or your belly feels like it's, bloated and swollen, just remember this: the most important changes happen inside first. So you might not see it straight away, but your body's doing the work under the hood. It's like underneath in the deep tissue. That's where it's all happening. That's why with PrimeFit, I don't really focus a lot on aesthetics. I focus on function, health, and long-term change, because to be honest, no one cares about a six-pack if they're knackered all day and can't sleep through the night. So this is why I want to have a proper chat about how belly fat plays out differently for men and women, because believe me, it's not the same game. In fact, it's not even the same rule book. And if you ever thought, hang on, I'm doing all the same things as my partner, but I'm not seeing the same results, you're not imagining it. So let's start with the men, the lads. Most blokes carry fat around their middle, and it's just how we're wired. We don't tend to hold as much fat on our hips or thighs, and it goes straight to the belly. And when you hit your late 30s or 40s, testosterone takes a dip and you start to notice it more. Once you had a flat stomach, in your 20s or 30s, and then that starts to soften up and you feel thick around the waist, and maybe you start sort of skipping the mirror on the way out of the shower. So the thing is, it's not just about looks. So belly fat, especially if it's firm or hard, is often visceral fat. That's the dangerous kind. It's not just looking a bit doughy. It's linked to things like heart disease, high blood pressure, type 2 diabetes. So if you're sitting there with a pint, resting on your stomach, laughing it off, it may be worth paying attention to, because it's not just a beer belly, it's a warning sign. Now, ladies, if you've got different hormonal chaos going on, you've got things like Estrogen starts to drop during perimenopause and menopause. Your body starts redistributing fat. You've always held it in your thighs or bum before, and now it's heading straight to your stomach. That's not you. You haven't changed anything, but your hormones have, and they're all calling the shots. So here's what makes it even more frustrating. Estrogen doesn't just affect fat storage. It also impacts mood, sleep, hunger, energy levels, and a whole bunch of other stuff. So while your body's trying to hang on to fat more tightly, you're also more likely to be tired, irritated, craving food for comfort. It's brilliant, perfect storm, right? So it's not kind of hopeless. I've coached loads of women through this transition. And when we focus on strength training, good nutrition, managing stress, and actually sleeping, the results do come. It just takes a bit of patience and the right kind of support. So at the end of the day, biology isn't fair, and comparing yourself to someone else, especially someone with a completely different hormonal profile, is pointless. So what matters is understanding how your body works now and what it actually responds to, not what worked in your 20s, not what some influencer on Instagram also swears by. Now, what we're talking about is what works now. So that's what I focus on in PrimeFit: real life, real bodies, real change. So let's bring all that together now, because this is the part where most people either get it right or they completely just muck it up. So I'm talking about what actually works to shift belly fat when you're in your 40s, 50s and beyond. And no, it's not going to be found on the back of a cereal box or in a 14-day juice cleanse. So the first things you need to think about is you've got to lift. And I don't care if it's kettlebells, dumbbells, resistance bands, or just your body weight at first. If you're not doing strength training, you're making life harder for yourself. Muscle is your best friend here. It helps you burn calories, it improves insulin sensitivity, and it basically keeps your metabolism from tanking. So you don't need to become a powerlifter, but you do need to challenge your body to stay strong. And the next thing is to get your protein up. Not a nibble a bit of chicken here and there or a bit of yogurt. I mean proper consistent protein across your meals, because this helps with recovery, keeps you full, and stops you losing muscle when you're dropping fat. And most people aren't eating anywhere near enough, especially as they age. If you fix that, everything gets easier. Now, here's the unsexy stuff that matters more than people realize: sleep and stress. If you're not sleeping properly, your hormones are going to be all over the place. You'll be hungrier, more irritable, less motivated, and more likely to reach for that wine, takeaways, and all that kind of stuff. Stress, the same story. Chronic stress is going to create more cortisol. More cortisol is going to hold on to more belly fat, and you can't out-train a nervous system that's constantly fried. Cardio has its place. Walking is great. Zone 2 cardio is great, but the answer isn't smashing yourself with HIIT every day. And that often backfires, leaving you more knackered, more inflamed, and hungrier. You want balance and you want sustainability. And finally, but most importantly, you've got to be consistent. And this is about like smashing it for 3 weeks, and keeping it up, not doing it for 3 weeks and then falling off a cliff. So it's about showing up week in, week out, even when it's boring, even when you're not seeing massive changes, because the results come when you stick with it long enough for your body to finally trust that the new routine is the real deal. So to be blunt, there's no shortcut. There is a smart way to do this, one that works with your body and not against it. That's exactly what we do in PrimeFit. And if you're already in and doing it, you already know this stuff. If you're watching this and you haven't opted in to do PrimeFit yet, then you should do that. And then we can get you moving forwards in getting that belly fat off. So that's all for this week. I'm going to catch you in the gym next week. Have a great weekend, and I'll see you next time for Primetime. And if you've got any questions, leave them in the community group.